There's a book in the New Testament, so Jewish, so rooted in the Hebrew Bible's own traditions, that if you remove just 2 or 3 sentences, most scholars say it could pass as a non-Christian text. No cross, no resurrection, no salvation by faith, just raw, practical wisdom about how to live, and a blistering takedown of the rich. And that book is the letter of James. To understand why James is so unusual, we need to understand the tradition it comes from. The Bible contains a category called wisdom literature, texts like Proverbs, Job, Sirach, and the Wisdom of Solomon. These aren't prophecy, law, or narrative. They're collections of practical moral instruction. And their thesis statement comes from Proverbs. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom literature organizes around 3 pillars. First, controlling speech. Sirach 6:5 warns that a harsh tongue can destroy everything. Second, caring for the poor. Sirach chapter 4 commands, remember those in need. Third, reflecting on life's brevity. Job 14:1, few of days and full of trouble. These 3 themes recur across centuries of Jewish wisdom writing. Now, enter James. Written sometime between 60 and 100 CE, this letter maps directly onto all 3 pillars. On speech, James chapter 3 compares the tongue to a bit in a horse's mouth and a rudder on a ship, tiny instruments that steer enormous forces. On poverty, James chapters 2 and 5 contain some of the most economically radical passages in the entire New Testament. On life's brevity, James 4:14 says, you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. These are folk wisdom analogies, not theological arguments. This is a wisdom teacher at work. Notice the style. James doesn't write like Paul. There are no extended theological arguments, no doctrines of justification, no meditations on the cross. Instead, short, punchy, moral exhortations, proverbial sayings, a sermon-like tone. And here's the striking part. James mentions Jesus Christ exactly twice. Chapter 1, verse 1, chapter 2, verse 1. That's it. Remove those 2 references, and the letter reads as Jewish wisdom literature, start to finish. A quick note on Sirach and the Wisdom of Solomon. These texts appear in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but not Protestant ones. They are sometimes called the Apocrypha or deuterocanonical books. That distinction matters less than the continuity. James draws from the same stream of tradition these texts represent, whether or not every Bible includes them all. But James isn't just recycling old proverbs. He's writing from a specific social reality, one defined by poverty. His audience is predominantly poor. Much wisdom literature addresses the prosperous, offering advice for navigating wealth and power. James flips that. He writes from poverty to the poor. And that shapes everything, especially his fury at the rich. James chapter 2 paints a vivid scene. Picture an early Christian assembly. A wealthy person walks in wearing fine clothes and a gold ring. The community ushers him to the best seat. Then a poor person enters in dirty clothing. He's told, stand over there or sit on the floor by my feet. James is furious. He asks, has not God chosen the poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom? Then he points out the bitter irony. It's the rich who drag these communities into court and blaspheme Christ's name. And this is concrete social critique. Then comes the most explosive passage in the letter, James chapter 5. He turns directly to the wealthy. Come now, you rich people, weep and wail for the miseries coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, your gold and silver have rusted, and their rust will be evidence against you. And then the most powerful image, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. Lord of hosts, Sabaoth in Greek, a title emphasizing God's cosmic power and authority. Withheld wages become voices, they rise to God. This is prophetic language fused with wisdom literature. One more thing worth addressing, you may have heard that James contradicts Paul. James writes, faith without works is dead. Paul writes, a person is justified by faith apart from works of the law. The tension is real, but the conflict is overstated. Paul is doing theology, arguing about how Gentiles enter the covenant. James is doing wisdom instruction, insisting that genuine faith produces action. Different genres, different purposes, they're not having the same conversation. So what does all of this add up to, right? James shows us the New Testament is not monolithic. It contains a text deeply rooted in Jewish wisdom traditions, one that prioritizes ethical action over theological doctrine. Economic justice was not peripheral to early Christian communities. It was central. The cries of exploited laborers reaching God's ears is one of the most powerful images in all of Scripture. James reminds us that at the heart of the biblical tradition, Jewish and Christian alike, stands a simple, radical demand: watch your words, share your wealth, and remember that life is short.